live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of High Velocity Radio, and this is going to be a fun one. Today on the show, we have Frankie Russo, and he is with the School of Why. Welcome, Frankie.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us a little bit about the School of Why. How are you serving folks?
All right, great. Well, the School of Why is basically an extension of the two books that I've written. One was The Art of Why about 5 years ago, and then Breaking Why, which actually hits the stores on Tuesday. And so the School of Why was something that we started because we found that there was a need to take the principles and all of the different pieces from the books that I've written, which are mostly about finding and mastering your purpose was the first book. And then the second book is about hacking and rebuilding what we call strategic emotions for authentic success and ultimately being able to turn your passion and purpose into profits. And so the School of Why is a place where people can come together. It's a community with people that are mentoring each other as well as that are coming and working the steps from the book together. So there are 10 steps from our books, and it's the School of Why is basically working those steps one-on-one with mentors and sponsors that are working with other people to help them to master their purpose and really break their why. And then as the workshops come together this year, we've been doing more group settings so that people can experience working these steps as a group. So that's really the biggest thing. We focus on mostly entrepreneurs because that's been my experience. But we also work with musicians and athletes, as well as just really anyone who's seeking to hack their current life to rebuild a better future.
Now, I'm sure it's no accident that why is the operative word here. Is it a lot of people would focus on the what of what they do or the how of what they do, but
that's right.
It sounds like your center or your foundational piece is the why. How did you kind of come about that?
Yeah, so actually started about 15 years ago. It was of all things, I was in the mortgage business, and I had a lot of young people that were up and coming. And of course, this is before the mortgage crisis hit. So just about anybody could be involved in mortgages back then. And I had a bunch of young guys that were all starting to follow me and work with me and all this and that. And I needed a way to kind of really train them to rethink the way that they interact with people that they're going to work with. And a lot of them, always when it comes to finance and money and banking, everything's always about what is the numbers, right? Or how is this going to work? Or how long is it going to take? Or when can we close? And I had to really find a way to train them to start with asking the question, why are you here? And really getting down to the why, because why, if we know the answer to why, I realized early on that tells us the motive, right? So if somebody knows why somebody would have, let's say, killed someone, in crime mysteries and detective work, we then have a motive, right? So, but if you can figure out what the motive is, you can then use that to create motivation. And so that's where it originally started at. And then that basically evolved from being about business and doing deals and success. It matured to being more about purpose. Because as I kind of kept going down my own journey over the last 15 years, I realized that success and making money and being successful in business started to matter less and less as I actually became more successful. And I started to realize that having a purpose was actually more important than just being successful. And so the why started to become about having a true purpose and figuring out why I'm here. And as I've kind of uncovered that, it's become a passion of mine. And I've found that a lot of other people they're rarely asking that question. It's like you said, who, what, when, where, how often, all those questions are questions I've got to ask every day to survive. I don't actually have to ask the question why in order to survive. I can never ask that question and still survive. But if I want to really thrive and I want to fulfill and master my purpose on why I'm here and how that affects the people around me and the community around me, I've got to be asking that question. And it's a question that sometimes can be really uncomfortable, and it takes a lot of work and it's ongoing. to continue to rediscover it. That's one of the reasons why I wrote Breaking Why as a follow-up to The Art of Why, because even in the last 5 years, I've gone through a lot of stuff that really forced me to kind of break my own rules and break some of the things that I had even laid out in my first book. And what I learned was that that is part of the ever evolving life that we're living. We have to constantly be reevaluating and even breaking our why so that we can continue to grow and evolve.
Now, how do you create an environment of trust and vulnerability that allows a person to truly answer the why? Because a lot of times you'll ask, like, why do you want this job, or why do you want to do whatever you're trying to do? And it's like, oh, to make money, or I got to feed my kids, or, it's something surface level. It isn't really getting to the heart of what the real why might be that is motivating them.
Well, so the thing about doing the work that I do around this like deeper, more vulnerable experience with people, especially like in business, for me, it actually came from going through a lot of difficult times for myself. So about almost 14 years ago, I got sober from drugs and alcohol. So that was one of the first real big times as an adult that I had to ask the question, why am I here? And I was forced to get a lot more vulnerable because I needed it to save my life. And so I find that the people that not everybody's ready to ask this question, right? So it's not this book, and this journey isn't for everyone. This is for the people that are willing to really dig deeper, to go deeper, and that want something more than just checking boxes and getting a check, and want to go and make their life more meaningful. And so the thing is that the first step in this journey is that you don't really even start the work unless somebody's ready, and not everybody's ready. And a lot of times what makes us ready is experience, sometimes pain, difficulties, setbacks. Those are the types of things that kind of bring us to that sometimes bottom, if you will, that forces me to really start asking some of these questions, because just asking the other questions isn't working for me. So most people don't start this process unless something is broken or something isn't right, or there's just something they're no longer able to accept about their life or their situation.
So there are some clues. There's some breadcrumbs that are happening for this person to say, you know what, maybe I got to take a step back, or I got to wait a beat and really look at things, because what I'm doing now isn't getting me where I want to go.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, some of the greatest things in the most successful people, it happens after what feels like major setback, because like somebody who has maybe dreamed about starting their own company, but has always worked in a job is going to look at being fired or laid off as this massive setback, like they're going backwards. But how else are they going to be in a position to start something fresh and new if they weren't first forced into that uncomfortable position? And sometimes it is powers greater than us, and call it the universe, call it, corporate America, whatever. The point is that it's when we get to that place of feeling powerless that we have an opportunity to rethink what it is that we're going to do to regain power and to regain our life back, right? And it's easy to just go along to get along, and just kind of follow the status quo, or just follow what we think we're supposed to do, or what people tell us we're supposed to do. And those are the times when you want to go deeper. I mean, to me, the biggest lessons that I've learned, the best teachers that I've had, has been pain. And as much as I wish that wasn't true, and I hate going through it, I always try to make the most of it. And a lot of the book is about how to maneuver that first from like what I call the startup steps. So the first 5 steps of the School of Why are about how to get started and really digging deep into like where we're going. And then the second 5 steps are more what I call the lifestyle steps. And that's where the ongoing daily work has to happen in order to continue to evolve and continue to be able to run the race that it takes to fulfill your purpose and fulfill your why.
Now, do you think the fact that so many people were, a lot of people are using the term this great resignation, where a lot of people are, kind of pulling the ripcord of their old life and saying, look, after going through this pandemic, there has to be more. I'm not going to tolerate certain things anymore. I am going to find my passion. I am going to find my purpose, and I'll figure out the money part down the road. Do you think that this kind of line of thinking, this art of why, this school of why, is the path for a lot of people when it comes to kind of reevaluating where they've been and where they want to go?
100%. A lot of this book is about my experience and other people's experiences that have gone through just that at different moments. For me, I thought that my life was over, when I got sober at 13, 14 years ago. Right. And also at the same time, granted, that's when the mortgage crisis hit. So I lost my business and I lost my marriage and I had to get sober all at the same time. So obviously, if you don't rethink your life in a moment like that, chances are it's definitely going to get worse. So it always can get worse is something I've learned. And I decided to do something different. And I walked to work. I sold my sports car, walked to work for a year, decided I was going to do something very, very different, got into a business where I could build a name that wasn't about just money or success, and build something with true value. And also focus on challenging myself to give back to others and to mentor other people and to sponsor other people, whether it be in a 12-step program or whether it be in business. And that was a real kind of driver for me to create the School of Why and these books and this community, was so that we could have a place for people that are entrepreneurs or maybe aren't going through something that would put them in a 12-step program, but create a similar type community to really grow together, build a team, because that's something that I was blessed with 11 years ago, was a really powerful mentor who became like a business father to me. And that changed the course of my career. Okay. And so I know how powerful that can be. And to be able to share that with other people is important to me. And I think it's important for all of us, no matter where we're at, to be sharing our experience with someone else in order to be that in and of itself is a big part of what I think our purpose is in this life, is to help others. And the 10th step is all about basically taking the experiences from these steps and then giving it back. And that's really where it starts to come alive and stay alive.
Now, for the folks that are interested in this, obviously the books are the starting point, but now you're kind of evolving this into a community in a sense of really people helping people in terms of getting the most out of their shared experience and helping each other go through this transition. Can you talk a little bit about, if you were new to this, where you would start and what the steps are to really wring out the most value from it?
Yeah, so the first place you start is to get the Breaking Why book. So in the Breaking Why book is the initial steps and the basic curriculum of the School of Why. And to work the steps, the written portions, which are in the book on their own. And then to reach out to our schoolofwhy.com community to get plugged in and talk about ways to talk with us about what type of role they'd like to play as it relates to being a sponsor or being sponsored. And one of the cool things about it is that there's no real money involved. So it's not like a community where you're paying fees and getting referrals and all that kind of nonsense. Those things might be a byproduct, but this is really about being able to have a mind share and a community and coming together, mostly so that each person in the community has a place where they can give back. So that's really the theme, is that everybody, including myself, is there to give back as opposed to just get. So the way that we get or receive in this community is by giving back. But reaching out to the schoolofwhy.com or frankie-russo.com or any of the social media platforms that I'm on, right now, I like to keep it very personal. And so I'm encouraging people to reach out to me that way. But the first step is absolutely getting Breaking Why, which is available on Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, all the main booksellers. and starting the process on their own. And I usually encourage people to read through the book first and then come back and do the exercises. It can be difficult to do the exercises as you go, but I find that most people have enjoyed the experience better by reading the book and then coming back to do the exercises.
Now, is there anything that a listener could do right today, based on your knowledge and past experience today, that would help them move the ball and help them find this peace and this kind of life of meaning that your book talks about?
Absolutely. If somebody just wanted something to do today, it would be to start off by asking themselves, the question of why am I here in this moment? And why am I here on this earth? Those are two big questions that we have to start asking ourselves. And then what I usually will do is have people list things that they used to love as a child or in their earlier years. See, most of the people I work with are just getting started up or they're stuck. A lot of them are stuck. And what I've learned is that if you can tap into what we loved when we were just a child, those things that were important to us back before we started to change, is to start to remember those things and think about what would it take to bring those things back to the forefront. And one easy way to do that is to list things that you used to love as a child, your earlier years that you don't do anymore because of busyness or life or your situation or others' opinions. And then use that list to kind of help you uncover what are the things that now today you're passionate about. Because tapping into what I'm passionate about is an important component of understanding my purpose. So those are some initial things, and there's a bunch of other opportunities of what you can do, but starting to kind of look at why am I here? Am I fulfilled? Asking those questions and starting to do some of that work of looking within, because the School of Why is really about looking inward to be able to create what you want outward.
Now, if somebody wants to learn more about the books and or the School of Why, what's the website one more time?
Yeah, so it's frankie-russo.com or theschoolofwhy.com.
And it's
so
the School of Why, theschoolofwhy.com.
Theschoolofwhy.com, that's right.
Well, Frankie, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing such important work, and we appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to have been a part of your show.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on High Velocity Radio.